Could Tesla be heading back towards $100? And also, what in the world is going on with these markets? What do we need to look out for? We need to talk about it in this video. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education, and if there were ghost stories about Bitcoin, we could call it Tales from the Crypto. Quick shout out to my 90s friends who are also fans of Tales from the Crypt, setting me up decades in advance for that dad joke. Not sure that it was worth it, but there it is. So we're going to talk about SPY, QQQ, some of the big tech that's in there, wrap it up with talking about Tesla. So the reason I want to start it this way is that it sort of gives a little bit of background of where I'm coming from for this, and then finishing up talking about the sentiment specifically about Tesla. So right here, SPY, we're in an ascending wedge pattern right now that breaking through the bottom trend line could be bearish for us and send us down a significant number of percent from where we're at now. Maybe we see that 4 to 5% pullback from its current price right now. So that would be significant for SPY, and we'll see there are a lot of catalysts out there. We have the Fed to speak. We have inflation reports coming out for us. We also have jobs reports that are coming for us. So the JOLTS and non-farm payrolls, consumer sentiment is also out there. CPI next week, PPI next week, and then we have the Fed meeting the week after that, and we want to watch and see when that first rate cut is expected. Right now, it's looking like we could possibly see that June or July, and we also want to look at December to see how many rate cuts we're going to get for that, and all of that pretense and all of that worry, I think, is going to land square on the overall market's shoulders, and I think it's going to cause us to have a little bit of volatility in here, possibly pushing us down to support again, maybe even possibly breaking down through that support of this lower trend line that we have right here. Into Qs, very much the same look, down a bit more because all of big tech right now, besides Nvidia, all of big tech besides Nvidia is currently down right now in the pre-market. So we have Apple down, Amazon down, Google, Meta, Microsoft, and like I said, Nvidia is up, but then Netflix is down, Tesla is down. So not necessarily that great for us, shaping up for QQQ. And we will, again, just like with the SPY, we want to see this bottom trend line. If that holds as support like we did back here, and I said over in my Discord, I said that should that support hold, that we could have a very nice green day after that, and that's exactly what we saw happen. As a matter of fact, we had over 1.5% coming up off of that support. Very strong support for us, selling off a little bit yesterday, selling off a little bit more so far today, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. I did want to point out with Bitcoin that as of the time of this recording, falling just $150 shy of the all-time high for Bitcoin of 69,000, which happened all the way back here. This is the weekly chart that we're looking at, and it happened the week of November 8th of 2021, and then this week of the 4th of March, so starting yesterday's week, we peaked out at 68,850. So this could possibly be a double peak for us, and we could possibly sell down from here. So if we get a significant drawdown back to 65 or 60,000, I could see that as happening before possibly if we start another leg up from there. But this is most definitely something to be watching for. Significantly overbought on a weekly basis for Bitcoin, and just look at that run that we have. It mirrors what we saw in 2020 through well into 2021, as a matter of fact, maybe even rivaling a little bit that, especially more recently, that move that we saw upward with the Bitcoin ETF being something helping to push it higher. So I don't think that we settle back to these levels that we saw back here, but I do think it's possible that we see a bit of a pullback in Bitcoin's price as we neared that all-time high, but didn't yet break it. So I think there could be some settling happening before we continue upward again for Bitcoin, especially as we approach the halving in April. So we want to be watching for that. So Nvidia is one, like I said, it's the big tech's last holdout right now as of today's market. And this is something we'll be keeping an eye on, because even though for Nvidia, I'm highly bullish on it and my price target is still above where it's currently trading the pre-market at 857, my 12-month price target is still even up above that. And I haven't even updated it yet for the most recent quarter's earnings. And when I do, I think it's going to be a little bit more beyond that, given what they said about continuing the trajectory that they're on through 2025. So watching for that to happen. What I said in my video over in the Patreon was that this is one that's going to trade with the market multiples, which right now are pretty rich. But if the markets sell off and those market multiples compress, Nvidia's multiple probably will also likely compress, especially as people move around and start searching for value elsewhere. Now, mind you, for Nvidia, this is one right now that is a little bit out of value territory. It might still have some upside to go, but not nearly as much as it did back at the $400 and $500 levels. So for Nvidia, definitely bullish on Nvidia. Could possibly see some selling pressure if the markets do sell off, if we have the SPY and QQ draw down significantly from where that, especially if they break their ascending wedge patterns that they're in and we get a bit of a reversal or a bit of a sell-off. we could possibly see some of that softening in Nvidia's price. Now, one other thing that can happen with Nvidia being that all-star stock and that one holdout is we could see further buying pressure, as we could have further retail and institutional investment moving into Nvidia, sort of looking for catching the top of that sinking ship, trying to just stay up above water. So it is something that we could possibly see a further price pump for Nvidia. It's not out of the realm of possibility. So let's move into Google. Looking at the daily chart on Google for this one, you can see that right now in the pre-market hours, we're trading down below this yellow line, which is the 200-day moving average. Yesterday, we closed up above it, which is good. We could possibly see some support there, but with the rest of the market selling a little bit, probably led by what we have from Apple and helped out a little bit with what we see from Tesla, plus also the rest of the market being up on as much of a run as it has been. We could possibly be seeing some of that settling. Sentiment around Google is somewhat negative right now. The whole Gemini thing kind of was a bit of a disaster for them. And so really, like, they're almost with the slip-ups with the AI space, just making them seem behind. And so some of that hype and anticipation that they had that pushed them up over $155 per share now is sort of faltering a little bit, although we are somewhat kind of getting a descending wedge pattern coming out of this. So if I were to update my technicals a little bit on this one, since we've broken down through that trend line, it is possible that we sell off and we break down through that 200-day and that we do end up breaking the top trend line at some point in time, but that's down the road. I think more importantly, what we need to be watching for Google is if we break this 200-day, that we come back up and retest it, and then we could possibly see a further drop if we fail to break that 200-day. Now, mind you, if we catch support right here at this 200-day, we could come back up and we could test out some of these areas that we saw up here closer to that 140 mark, and we're just going to have to watch for that. We definitely want to see a sentiment shift for Google if we're going to head back up in a bullish direction. If we see a continued negative sentiment or continued things that are perceived as missteps for their AI, that's going to further hinder the business that they have, especially if it's something that could possibly mean that it would eat into the revenues and then maybe there could be something overtaken. I don't think that Google is a down and out company. I think it is a heading down for now company. So we do want to be on the lookout for that. Apple taking a hit because of a sales miss in China, a reduced number of iPhone sales in China. I think 24% down is how much they are in the pre-market hours. We're selling down near 170. And I did say, I believe I said this in my videos here, and I said it over in the Discord available through my Patreon, is that we could possibly see 167 come out of this. And man, we're just dropping quickly from this descending wedge pattern that I've shown here before. And I've also talked about and also made moves on over at the Discord, posting my buys and sells over there as well. All right, so about Tesla. We have a few things that we're watching out for. One, will we get any further selling that would be sell pressure from Elon himself in order to fund Twitter? That's one, or X, I guess I should say. That's one question that's out there. Demand from China, is that something that we're going to continue to see diminish, because that can help change the growth curve, because that is a significant part of the market. For Tesla, as a matter of fact, the China impact is also affecting Apple, as we've discussed earlier. And then we want to see the United States numbers come out for that. So the quarterly deliveries that we get in April are going to be absolutely huge for Tesla, as a matter of fact, big enough that we could even see a further drawdown. Until that point in time, there's a lot of negative sentiment building against EVs in general, and Tesla being the spearhead of that. Trouble for them is going to be an absolute wreck for others. So we got to be on the lookout for that one. And when we take a look at the technicals for Tesla, look at this daily chart, and we have this bear flag formation shaping up, and we even broke out of the bottom part of this trend line, so we could see a continuation from there. So if I zoom out from that, to really see where that puts us. There we go. That's how far I want to go out from this, because what I want to do is I'll shrink that up just a little bit, and I'm going to grab a segment that we have here, and from the top of that down to the bottom, so the height of the pole that we have, I'm going to copy that and then paste it, and we're going to drag it down to the moment where we have that breakout. And we want to see exactly where that puts us. And where that puts us is right around 106, which puts us around this previous bottom that we have. Now, mind you, I don't know that we get there at all. So first and foremost, this would be what I think is a worst case scenario, is that we return back down close to that $100 per share. So what would it take in order to get there? We would have to see lots and lots of very solid reasons, such as putting demand in question for Tesla, further selling pressure from Elon, further lessened deliveries coming out of China. So just negative sentiment in general, especially. And on top of this, I want to put the cherry on top of this, and that's the negative sentiment in the markets overall. So if the markets do sell down, that's going to be further downward pressure for Tesla. And I think it would take the combination of those things to really push us down this low. I don't think that that technical plays out on its own. So just so that's out there, so that it's not a doom and gloom thing, and it's also not an overall bearish sentiment on Tesla. As I share out a chart like this one, this I believe is a worst case scenario, and I think that it would lead to a double bottom that would have absolutely glorious and astounding returns from that should we reach all the way down to that level. As a matter of fact, I think one load zone's right around 150, and I think another one is right around that 100. I'll say 100 to 110. We get into those numbers, and I think that we could see significant recoveries, significant periods of recovery coming out of Tesla, especially as sentiment starts to turn around, especially if it's something where the market sentiment changes, that the market itself is heading downward, Tesla's heading downward. Then when the market shifts back to a positive sentiment, I think Tesla also switching back to a positive sentiment. Those are things that I could see really positively igniting Tesla stock and actually putting the excitement back into it. For right now, a lot of the excitement and the promise is sort of there's doubt in people's minds that wasn't necessarily there before, that they've kind of gotten beaten up over time, and seeing these numbers get reduced instead of build, like we're just in a different phase, I think, for Tesla stock, and it's one that I think we could see a little bit more selling before we start to see the buying pressure really significantly come back in. There's always the possibility that I'm wrong here. It's possible that we find support around 175 to 180 and we start to significantly recover from where we're at right now. We want to keep an ear out for the sentiment. We want to watch the news headlines that come out. We want to see how the stocks react to it. And we want to know exactly what's coming for us for Tesla. I think that build out is going to continue for Tesla over time. I think the Cybertruck, as it matures and as it develops, it will turn into a positive catalyst. I think that there are other vehicles that they're working on. I think that those are really going to be significant revenue and bottom line profit drivers over time. The market, in the meantime, I don't think is going to be patient. I think the next several weeks to months could be something that's a little bit painful for us, especially as we near that probably April 2nd date. I believe it's always the second day into the new quarter when we get the Tesla quarterly deliveries. There are going to be eyes wrapped on that sucker. As a matter of fact, I believe that leading up to that, whatever our last trading day is, it might be April 1st itself, but I think that's the Monday after Easter. That day could be significant for Tesla. So I think that we need to keep our eyes out for that catalyst date, as well as what we have for inflation data, Jerome Powell coming out and speaking, the results of the FOMC meeting, and then along with that, the summary of economic projections. There is a lot going on in the markets. I think we go sideways or down for the next little while, depending on what we hear from Jerome and what we see from the inflation reports as we near those inflation reports especially, and also what we see coming out from jobs data. So just to summarize this whole thing on Nvidia itself, I think Nvidia is going to be very much tied to the market multiples, that as the sentiment in the market is positive, that Nvidia will continue to dominate for a while. Even so, I think that it's going to experience less of a sell-off than some of the other companies that are out there. We're going to have to watch. I think demand stays strong for Nvidia, and I think they keep on pumping out really positive results. For Tesla is one that right now I can tell that there's a change in people's minds about Tesla from what it was. It's not what it was a year ago at this time. A year ago at this time, people were still excited about Tesla. They were looking forward to the earnings, and now there's doubt that just wasn't there before. And that's something that I think could continue to erode Tesla's stock price over time. And I don't know, once again, that it brings us down to that $100 mark. I can tell you that if it does, I think that that could be a significantly bullish time in the markets for Tesla, setting it up for an absolutely astounding outperformance. And I'll be glad that I did that dollar cost averaging. That's my prediction moving forward from here at this moment for this video. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. I really do appreciate it. You can check out the links down in the description if you'd like to know about supporting this channel and seeing my buys and sells and how I'm playing this market. As always, thank you for watching. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning, and we'll see you in the next video.